Hello y'all, and welcome back. So in this module we're examining the question, when you know that something is wrong, why do you do it anyway? In the last video we saw Plato's answer to this question, which is that your reason is simply overpowered by your passion. Your passion is too strong, and so you do the wrong thing, knowing the entire time that it is wrong. We also raised a concern about this view, though, which is that it perhaps doesn't capture as well as it might what exactly is going on when you act out of passion. So we turn to an alternate view. This is the view of Plato's mentor and teacher Socrates, and in this he's joined by the Stoics, the school that we looked at a couple units after we looked at Plato. And Socrates and the Stoics hold that there are not three parts of the soul. They say there's only one part of the soul. You, the human person, just are your reason. So you are a collection of beliefs. You are what you think. You are what you believe. You are a collection of beliefs. So there's no spirit and there's no appetite. And Socrates has a number of different things he says, a number of passing remarks, obiter dicta, that kind of lead us to the conclusion that this is what his settled view is, that you, the human person, just are what you believe. And this is certainly what the Stoics believe. Now this means that in cases of weakness of will, your reason can't be overpowered by your spirit, and it can't be overpowered by your appetite, for the very simple reason that those parts of the soul don't exist. There is no spirit, there is no appetite. So reason is all there is, so it can't be overpowered. How then does it come to pass that you act against your own best judgment? Well, say Socrates and the Stoics, you don't. You have never in your life had the experience of acting against your own best judgment. If you act, it is because you believe that it is the best thing to do at the moment, at the time. And here's how it works. Step one, you know it's wrong, whatever the it is here again. Step two, under pressure from temptation, you change your mind. Now there's a lot going on here. So the temptation comes, whatever the temptation is, whether it's something internal, whether it's something external. We experience all different kinds of temptations. We know what's going on here. This is not something that we need illustrated. We have the illustration in our everyday life. But under pressure from temptation, you start to think, is it worth it to hold out against this temptation? And this mind changing takes a number of different forms. Perhaps you run a cost-benefit analysis and you think the pain of holding out against the temptation is greater than the pain of shame that I would feel if I just gave into it. So you just run this economic cost-benefit analysis and you determine that it's actually worth it to give in. The pain of the shame is somewhat less, or the pain of failure or whatever is somewhat less than the pain of holding out against the temptation. Or you determine that you were a different person under different circumstances when you made the rule that you would not do this thing in question. And in point of fact, you, at the time that it is, let's say 11:30 at night, out on the town, are a wiser person. You're in a better grasp of the current situation. You understand the real world as it is. And the person who at 7:30 in the morning made the agreement that you wouldn't have more than 2 drinks, or that you wouldn't text this person, or that you wouldn't whatever, was some judgmental, stuck-up, ignorant person who doesn't know the facts of reality, and here you are facing the facts of reality, and you know that in fact the best thing to do in this situation is to have that 3rd drink, or to text that person, or whatever. Or you could say, well, you need to understand, when I said that I wouldn't text her, I didn't mean that I wouldn't physically text her, right? I just meant that I wouldn't start a new conversation where we rekindle the old relationship, and she breaks my heart and leaves me for a guy that drives a Tesla, and I cry myself to sleep 3 nights in a row. That's what I meant. I didn't mean that I wouldn't physically text her. I can still just text, say, hey, you crossed my mind as I was preparing for the new week. That's perfectly fine. When I said don't text her, I didn't mean don't physically write her a text. I meant don't do that whole other thing. You find a loophole, do you see? Okay, so there's a number of different ways that we can change our mind, okay, either because we determine that we were a different person, or because we determine that there's a loophole, or because we just run this cost-benefit analysis, or whatever. The point is, under pressure from temptation, you change your mind. So, 3, you change your mind. You now believe that it is okay You're not believing that's the morally right thing to do, right? That would be another bridge to cross. But you believe, shout out Whitney Houston, it's not right, but it's okay. That's number 3. Okay, you believe it's okay. 4, you do it. Whatever it is. 4, you do it. So let's backtrack, right? 1, you believe it's wrong to do it. 2, under pressure from temptation, you change your mind. 3, you think that it's okay to do it. 4, you do it. Once it's out of your system, once you've done it, suddenly, 5, you change your mind back. Back to what? Back to 1. Back to believing that it's wrong. And you say, I knew the whole time that it was wrong. I knew the whole time that it was wrong. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. At the time that you did it, according to Socrates and the Stoics, you believed that it was the right thing to do. It's not possible for you to act against your own best judgment. The fact that you did it is proof conclusive that you did think that it was the right thing to do at the time when you acted on that desire. Because you can only act out of your own best judgment because you just are your reason. It's impossible to act against your own best judgment. So, say Socrates and the Stoics, you've never acted against your own best judgment. If you think that you act against your own best judgment, that's because you immediately change your mind back to believing that it's wrong after you changed your mind and believed that it was on balance the best thing to do, and that's why you did it. Now, this view has a lot going for it. One thing it has going for it is that sometimes when we act against our own best judgment, it's worth asking the question, did you really believe that was wrong? Did you really believe that it was wrong? Or did you find a loophole? Or did you find a gray area? Right? Or did you find some kind of excuse? Because we're geniuses at coming up with excuses when we need to justify what we know is wrong. Did you come up with some kind of excuse to justify doing this wrong thing? Because if you came up with an excuse and you justified it in the moment, that means that Socrates and the Stoics are correct, that you're actually acting out of your own best judgment. So, these are the two views, Plato's and that of Socrates and the Stoics. These are not the only two views. As is so often the case, Aristotle surveys and rejects them both and has a view that has great subtlety, power, breadth, explanatory power, etc. But we don't have the time to get into Aristotle's view. It's substantially more complex and probably too complex for an introductory class. So we just have these two views, but I think these two views are two real heavy hitters here. So in the discussion, in the concluding discussion, I want to hear your perspective, which, according to you, given your life experience, is the correct view. So I'll see you in the next module, and I'll see you in the exercise discussion question as you answer the question, who is right? Thanks.